as I've discussed, that in a binary, we're paying the same kind of volume over and over and over again. We may have 50 people that are getting paid 10% on some of the same volume. Well, that's paying out 500%. You understand that eventually there has to be a point where we've saturated the amount that we can pay out and can't pay beyond that 52%. And so we call that the binary cap. And what that means is there's a point where the money caps out, because mathematically we cannot pay out 10% over and over and over. We can't pay out 500% of a dollar. We can't do that. So to keep us in this 52% area, we have to reach eventually what's called the cap. And that cap is once your binary has reached a certain volume, we can't pay you beyond that. It may continue to grow, but we can't pay you more than what the cap is. And let me explain what that is. The binary cap is 400,000 of group volume in your lesser leg. So once your volume increases in the binary to where you have 400,000 GV in your organization, then we can give you a check for 10% of that in the binary only, which is $40,000. Now remember, you'll get more than that because you're getting check match also. But in the binary, the max we can pay out, as we pay out this 10% over and over again, mathematically is on 400,000 group volume, which would give you a check for $40,000. Now I want to give an example of something. Once you've capped out at that volume, we don't want you to go, oh gee, I can't make any more money, I'm done working, I'm going to quit because I can't make any more money. No, we automatically will reinsert you between yourself and the next position up. And when we do that, you can then start building a second lesser leg. So now you can actually build 2 weak legs and 1 strong leg. The strong leg has to have at least 400,000 because that's where it caps out at, and it could grow to whatever. It may be 1,000,000 GV in that leg, but your weak leg, once it hits 400,000, we will reinsert you right here so you can start building a second weaker leg. And now that can cap out at 400,000 also, which would give you also a check for $40,000. So now you have 2 weak legs and 1 strong leg. When you max out on your second leg, we'll allow you to do it again and again. So in essence, you can have 4 weak leg volumes and 1 strong leg. Now the active requirement for all of this is just 1 active requirement. As long as you're active with a minimum 50 PV, okay, you can get paid on 4 binary legs and 1 strong leg, which in a perfect world, you'd have 1 strong leg at 400,000 and 4 weak legs at 400,000. Okay, so your actual binary check, 10% of that's going to be $160,000. That's the actual binary cap in our compensation plan, is once we're paying you $160,000 a month in binary commissions only, we cannot pay any more in the binary. Now, will that be the amount of your check? No, because realize that all those people in all those 4 legs are also somewhere in this enrollment tree, which you'll be adding quite a bit. In fact, I can tell you right now, if your check's about $160,000, you're probably making double that in the enrollment tree for an actual check of more like $400,000, okay? Because once your system gets bigger, initially when you start, most of the money comes out of the binary. But as your business grows, it tends to even up, and eventually you'll be getting more money from check match than you will binary. Now what I want to do is go into a little bit more depth about the enrollment tree and show you what's required to participate in the enrollment tree. Okay, remember I told you that everybody you personally sponsor is what we call frontline to you. You sponsor 3, 4, 5, 6 people, whatever you sponsor to infinity, are all part of your enrollment tree, which we call MVP check match. To participate in the enrollment tree or the MVP check match, you have to become an MVP. An MVP is a rank in our company that you arrive at with once you have certain volume in your binary tree. And that rank is, when you become a Pearl MVP, that means you have 2,000 points of volume, or 2,000 GV, in your lesser leg. When you have 2,000 GV in your lesser leg, you become the level of a Pearl MVP. It's our first MVP rank. Then that qualifies you to participate and receive check match. Okay. The other requirement is, remember I said that to be active you had to be 50 PV. That's to receive a binary commission check. If you want to participate in the check match side also, that requirement is 100 PV. Okay, so 2 requirements. You've got to become at least a Pearl MVP or higher, and you have to have 100 personal volume on a monthly basis to participate in the check match also. Now, why do we do this? People ask me all the time, why do you go from 50 PV to 100 PV? It's not for the company, it's for the distributor. We want to drive commissions. We want to pay more commissions. Let me give you an example. Let's say everybody in your organization is all at 50 PV, okay? And you get a check for $10,000. If everybody in your organization was at 50 PV and the check was for $10,000, if everybody bumped up to receive check match and was 100 PV, that means your check would double. Your check would go to $20,000 a month. And how much more money did you have to spend to earn an extra $10,000? 50 PV. An extra 50 PV gave you an extra $10,000 or full $20,000. That's why we do it. It's not so that we can get more money, it's so that we can pay out twice the amount of commissions. If everybody in your organization is at 100 PV, your check is twice what it would have been if they're at 50 PV, and that's why we do it. It just drives more commissions to pay out to the distributor. Okay, let's go into a little bit more depth on the enrollment tree, or the MVP check match. Here you are, and of course you've sponsored people that are frontline to you. Okay. Other companies on a unilevel program always talk about how many levels deep they pay. For example, if all these people sponsored their first person, this would be level 1. That's level 2 to you. Okay, they sponsor a third person. That's level 3. And in compensation plans, that's kind of how other companies gauge how many levels deep they're gonna pay in the compensation program. But let me show you how we're different in what we do. Okay, we do not pay on levels, we pay what's called a generation. And a generation is defined by, it starts and ends with an MVP. So let's give an example. Let's say this leg goes 100 people deep. It's not just one straight line. I mean, there's other people that fan out from here, of course. But let's say this leg goes about 100 people deep, okay? And this leg goes down just what we show, about 4 people deep, okay? In this example, when we say we pay on a generation starts with an MVP and ends with an MVP. So for example, you are an MVP, you have to be to participate in the MVP check match. So the generation would start with you and end when you find another MVP within your downline. Let's say this person is the next MVP in this leg right here. That means from you to here, that's the end of the first generation. So you'd pick up 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Other companies would pick up 1 at one level. We pick up all 4 of these, and that's our first level because it starts with an MVP and it ends with an MVP. Okay? Let's say in this leg here, it goes down 100 people deep, and there's not one MVP found in this leg. That means that you start here and it never ends because you haven't found an MVP yet. That means you would check match off of all these people, and that's first generation. Here's another example over here. Let's say he's an MVP, and he's an MVP, and he's an MVP, back to back to back. That's the end of the first generation, end of the second generation, end of the third generation. Because remember, it starts and ends with an MVP. So in this example, if you were just getting paid off of one generation, you would pick up 4 people here, 100 people here, and first generation would be just these people here. Okay, so the compensation plan pays 7 generations deep, and let me define and show how that works. When you become a Pearl MVP, that means you have 2,000 GV in your lesser leg. Okay? The next rank is a Jade. A Jade has 5,000 GV in his lesser leg. The next rank is a Sapphire. Okay? Sapphire is 10,000 GV. Then a Ruby. A Ruby is 20,000 GV. Emerald, 30,000. Diamond is 40,000. And a Blue Diamond is 50,000. Group volume in your lesser leg. When you are a Pearl, you can go 1 generation deep. When you're a Jade, you can go 2 generations. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When you become a Blue Diamond in our company, you've maxed out the compensation plan because you are then able to go 7 generations deep and check match off of all these people.